Beloved children of the Most High, I am Michael, Prince of the Angels, warrior of God's throne. Today I was sent to bring you a revelation that can transform the way you see your own battles. Have you ever wondered why the Lord sometimes allows you to walk through the darkest valley before leading you to the highest mountain? It is written in 2 Corinthians 4:17. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Let me tell you about Daniel, a 16-year-old boy who in a single night lost everything in a devastating fire. But what seemed to be the end, the Father turned into a calling. From the deepest ashes, gardens of hope began to bloom, and through him thousands of lives were touched. And you? Maybe right now you feel defeated, as if God has forgotten you. But stay with me until the end, because this story proves that heaven never abandons its children. As the Lord declared in Jeremiah 1:12, "For I am watching to see that my word is fulfilled." Daniel was not an ordinary young man. Since childhood, he dreamed of becoming a pianist. He practiced 8 hours a day, won competitions, and captivated audiences. His parents had invested everything, absolutely everything, into his artistic future. The piano was the center of his life and the hope of his entire family. But on a December night, heaven allowed a terrible trial to forever change this young man's destiny. In the comments, declare your faith with me. Lord, help me trust in your plans even when I don't understand. Now let me reveal how the Most High transformed Daniel's greatest tragedy into his greatest victory. It was December 15th, the eve of the most important recital of Daniel's life. He was about to perform before renowned international masters, an opportunity that could open the doors to the most prestigious conservatories in Europe. At 3 a.m, a short circuit sparked a devastating fire. Within minutes, the flames consumed his home. Daniel awoke surrounded by fire and had only seconds to escape. But in the middle of that desperate run for his life, the unimaginable happened. A burning beam fell onto his hands. The very hands that once translated heaven's beauty into music were now burned and wounded. At the hospital, he heard the doctors say, "Mom and Daniel, you will never play the piano the same way again." Like Job, Daniel lost everything in a single night. The house, the piano, the furniture, the family savings, and above all, the dreams that sustained his soul. But nothing hurt more than watching his father weep in silence, crushed for having invested every resource into his son's future, now feeling as though it had all been in vain. At the hospital, with his hands wrapped in bandages, Daniel cried out in tears, "God, why me? I have always served you. I always used my talent for your glory." And it was in that very moment that heaven trembled. The Father whispered into my spirit, "Michael, this young man does not yet understand, but I will use him to play far more than piano keys. He will play hearts, and his music will be eternal. For it is written in Romans 8:18, the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us." 3 months later, still in physical therapy and battling pain, Daniel lived through gray, joyless days, until one day a nurse, moved by seeing him always downcast, approached and asked, "Daniel, what's your story?" He told her about his passion for the piano, the competitions he had won, and the dream cut short by the fire. The nurse then revealed, "My brother runs a foundation that shelters children at risk. They need someone to inspire them." Daniel lowered his eyes, showing the scars on his hands. "But I can't play the way I used to anymore." The nurse smiled gently and said, "Maybe God doesn't want you to play only for elegant audiences. Maybe he wants you to play for broken hearts just like yours." And so Daniel was introduced to the Hope Foundation. 40 children, orphans, abandoned, some from the streets. Each carried such deep pain that their little hearts seemed shattered. On the very first day, Daniel sat before an old, out-of-tune piano. His hands ached, his fingers no longer moved with the same agility. But as he played a simple melody, something supernatural happened. The children who had been playing restlessly stopped. One by one, they drew closer. And when Daniel began to sing, for God had preserved his voice, tears started streaming down their little faces marked by sorrow. Thus was fulfilled the word in Isaiah 61:3. To bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. Daniel realized that his scarred hands now played with a new anointing. Each scar had become a bridge, connecting his pain to the pain of those children, transforming wounds into hope. In just 6 months, Daniel had transformed the Hope Foundation. Children who were once closed off, rebellious, and marked by pain were now singing in chorus, smiling and dreaming again. But the Lord was only beginning his great work. One day, a businessman visited the institution and was deeply moved by a musical performance from the children. "Who taught them this?" he asked, his eyes filled with tears. "Professor Daniel," they replied. "That man was the owner of a television network." The following week, Daniel and the children were on a national program, sharing their stories of overcoming through music. What happened next was nothing short of a modern miracle. Thousands of people were touched. Donations poured in from every corner of the country. Other foundations asked Daniel for help. Record labels offered contracts, not for him to shine alone, but to record albums with the children, turning their voices into instruments of hope. In just 2 years, Daniel had developed a groundbreaking methodology, using music as a tool to heal childhood trauma. Universities invited him to lecture. Foreign governments sought to implement his method in schools and shelters. The young man who had lost his career as a virtuoso pianist became something infinitely greater, a living instrument in the hands of God to restore lives. As it is written in Ephesians 3:20, "Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine." Daniel once confided in me, "If it weren't for the fire, I would have only played for wealthy audiences. But God gave me something far greater, to play for broken lives and turn them into songs of hope." To this day, more than 10,000 children have been impacted by Daniel's method, and that number continues to grow like a heavenly symphony of miracles. Beloved children, Daniel's journey reveals to us 4 eternal truths about the plans of the Most High. First, God never wastes a pain. As Paul declared in 2 Corinthians 1:4, "Who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God." Every scar of Daniel's became a bridge to heal equally wounded hearts. Second, God's plans are always greater than our dreams. Daniel longed to play in conservatories, but God called him to play for lives, and that will echo for eternity. Third, our greatest falls precede our greatest victories. As it is written in Psalm 35, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." Fourth, God transforms our brokenness into qualifications to serve the broken. What seemed to be the end of Daniel was in truth the beginning of a ministry of restoration. If today you find yourself in the valley, if you feel you've lost everything, if life's wounds have burned your hands and your dreams, listen to the voice of the Eternal. "My child, I am not finished with you yet." For it is written in Jeremiah 29:11, "Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." If this message has spoken to your soul, subscribe to this heavenly channel, activate the notifications, and share it with someone who needs to know that God never wastes tears. In the comments, declare your faith. "Lord, even when I don't understand, I trust in your plans." Know that our angelic legion intercedes for each one of you. Always remember, God does not make mistakes. His plans are perfect. Trust the divine process. See you soon, warriors of faith. May the peace of the Most High go with you every step of the way.